Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. My name is Chris Martinez. I am the CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and the processes so that they can take on more projects and scale profitably. And today I am joined by the super successful John Crestani, founder of Pendragon Labs. What's up, John? How's it going,
Dude,
buddy? Thanks for joining me, man.
what's up?
Really excited to have you on the show. And as you know, we start off every episode with our little roundtable discussion. And you are a lover of backpacking and traveling on the cheap and being in hostels, which is something that I also love. So I want to hear some of your favorite backpacking / hostel stories that you've got.
Yeah, I mean, one of them was just I was kite surfing
Mm-hmm.
with a bunch of people in Cambuco, which is kind of like central northern Brazil,
Okay.
closer to the Amazon. And I was hanging out with some girls, and they're like, "Hey, we heard of this cool place called Jericoacoara." And I was like, "What's that?" And they said, "Dude, it's magical." So I was like, "Okay." They said they're going. So I said, "Okay, I'll go too." It's just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Are these
have any
people that you
place to.
just kind of like met in the hostel?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we had been hanging out for, weeks, in the same hostel because
Okay.
most of the people were out there for kite surfing.
Nice.
And we end up going to this place, and the car stops, and we're dropped off in the middle of a desert along the side of a road. I'm like, what the heck is this? They're like, oh, we have to go on a dune buggy for 45 minutes to reach this town. There's no road. Which is a little crazy. I was like, we're going to a town, there's no road. It ended up being the coolest town ever. I mean, it's just a couple streets, nobody wears shoes, no paved roads, just, they're little kind of alley type streets, but it was like the most organic type of living. And I just lived there for a few weeks, and the whole town, everybody in this small village between the sand dunes and the ocean, um, goes up on this sand dune, it's about a 10-story sand dune
That's
right
big.
outside it, like right next to the town.
Yeah.
And everybody takes the 5-minute walk or whatever up this sand dune every day and watches the sunset together. And that was one of the most magical experiences, just kind of being blasted into just a totally new, weird world where it just felt like time. You lose all concept of time
Right.
when you're in places that are just disconnected and beautiful and personal,
Yeah.
uh, like Jerry Quaquara. And I love those experiences. And I've some rated R experiences as well I could talk about, but we won't go over those on the
Oh
podcast.
man, come on. You're gonna leave us hanging. We gotta create the NC-17 version of this podcast then later on. So when you were in Brazil, I'm assuming that you don't speak Portuguese.
No,
So
I don't.
what was like, and this is one of the funnest parts about traveling, if for people that are listening, if you've never traveled to somewhere where you just have no understanding of the language, it
Yeah.
is incredibly exciting, and nerve-wracking at the same time. But like,
Yeah.
how did you find the communication while you were traveling throughout Brazil? Because like a lot of these remote places, they don't have anybody that speaks English.
Sure. I mean, what I would do is I would simply I would just talk to people, and I'd learn a few basic words. I'd learn
Mm-hmm.
hello, how are you doing? Where are the
Where is,
bathrooms?
yeah, yeah. How much is,
Goodbye, thank you. So I'd learn the basic words because a lot of foreigners don't even try to learn the basic, 5 words or 5 phrases. And just knowing the basic, words gives gives locals a lot more respect and makes
Mm-hmm.
people a lot more willing to help you do things, because there's just a mutual meeting,
Yeah.
right? You're showing your interest in their culture. Furthermore, I always try to pick up a few jokes, just like would you like to dance?
Oh.
Or stuff like, oh, you're very beautiful, or where are the girls? Onde é gatinhas, which directly it's Portuguese, which means kind of where are the girls, but it directly translates into where are the little cats. So and people find it funny when you're using a little bit of slang.
Yeah.
And I found you can just get a lot further in when you're traveling, when you have a few little quips like that. Also, it makes people a lot less likely to have the desire to take advantage of you, which, again, there are thieves in every country around the world. And if you are completely naive, doesn't matter what country you're in, people, especially if you're American, they know you have a lot of money. So
Yeah.
you have more money than the average person in most countries.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
So, we were talking about this before the show and just kind of like the crazy times. And last night was the debates. I don't know if you watched any of that shit show.
No.
But how do you think that your travel has helped shape your view of other cultures and countries and people from other places that are outside the United States?
First off, it's 100% shaped my ability to do marketing and communicate a monster deal. And the way I would say that it helped me was by allowing me to understand different groups of people, different cultures, different how people think, what people do, what is the same, what isn't the same. Just a really small example of this would be, is, let's say, India. If you're trying to market in India and you're marketing, let's say, whatever, a cheap, your front end offer is just a $1 subscription. And you think to yourself, okay, well, there's, the top 10% of India, that's 120 million people. Okay, you still have a pretty big market that can afford at least $1, right? But if you don't know Indian culture, then you don't really know that Indians don't like putting their credit card online. And they prefer cash on delivery. So if you don't understand that these little just nuanced differences. Again, Indians love buying stuff online, but they don't want to they do cash on delivery. So little stuff like that could make or break a marketing campaign. Similarly, understanding what, maybe what is beautiful, what is considered beautiful in different countries, right? In Brazil, there's a particular body type that is considered beautiful. And you have a very different body type that's considered beautiful in, let's say, Northern Europe, for instance. So understand, and if you're doing marketing and you're trying to show ideal body types, maybe you're doing weight loss, or you're advertising muscle supplements or beauty products, you need to understand these differences, because what we may think is beautiful is not beautiful to other people. And those are just like very basic examples, but it goes so deep. And I find myself consistently wrong in my ideas of what is desired and not desired by different groups of people, even in America.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely relate to the not knowing or having to learn the little nuances between different countries, because, like our business, we have an office here in Tijuana, Mexico. And when we first came down here in 2015, a perfect example is like we started hiring people, and in Mexico, the employees, when they negotiate their salaries, they negotiate them weekly and they negotiate them net. And I didn't know that. I thought that it was just like, okay, everybody negotiates monthly, and then you look at what you're going to make and you just deduct your taxes, and you say in your mind, okay, that's what I'm going to take home every month. And it's completely different here. And so when I was hiring these people, I didn't know that. And then, the accounting company that we were using, they asked me, so like, is this net or is this gross? And I'm like, it's gross. Of course, I'm paying them gross. Have them pay their own taxes. And I had like a revolution when the first paychecks came out. And what made it worse is that there are a lot of companies that take advantage of people down here. And so this kind of played into that stereotype that they have in their minds that, oh, the manager is trying to fuck me over and da 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 da.
Yeah.
So I had to overcome that. And then another challenge, a mistake that I made last year was we were having a meeting and our lunch was running late. And I said, hey guys, we're going to do a working lunch. Oh my God, huge mistake. Like, you do not have working lunches down here. You don't do it because the lunch hour is basically sacred. Food and family time are very much more important down here in this culture than they are in the United States. And when you think about it, it's like, why do we do it that way in the States? Yes, we're a little bit more efficient, but at the same time, is it healthy? Like, shouldn't we have some time away? So I'm not saying that one is better or worse than the other. And I work through lunch basically all the time because I enjoy it. But I tried to run a meeting, our monthly kickoff meeting, and I was doing it during the lunch hour. And then that just created a lot of problems where we're like, is he trying to like hide things from us, or why isn't he giving us this time? And they didn't mean anything by it. They weren't trying to be rude or vindictive or just, angry people. It was just, that was just part of the culture. And I didn't know. So then I had to apologize for that. But it definitely does give you some context, and it gives you the ability to ask better questions about why we do things a certain way. And also, understanding that, people do things differently in another country, and that's okay. So awesome, man. Well, I want to get to the next segment, which is the whole reason why we're here. So I want you to give me really quickly the 2-minute version of how you got started in the digital marketing space. And then we'll talk all about your agency that you launched and then how you made that transition as well, because that's an incredibly interesting story that I don't think we've ever had anybody on who's had a similar story. So really quickly, 2-minute version, how you got started in digital marketing.
2-minute version, sure. Read the 4-Hour Work Week on my semester abroad, decided to become an entrepreneur during college. I was always good at taking notes, so I started selling study guides at my school. In order to get, to find people who wanted to buy them, I had to learn marketing.
Yep.
I put up posters and I would split test the headlines until I finally cracked it on my, I'd say, 100th try.
Where'd you go to school, by the way?
Cal State Northridge.
Oh, nice.
Son. So I'm pretty much an LA local.
Yeah, exactly.
Super local. And then out of college, I started making some good money, $10,000, $20,000 a semester, got the bug. Out after college in 2010 to 2012, I worked for an agent, for marketing agencies, and I started at $1,600 a month, got myself up to $6,000 a month, as the director of, as the director of to becoming the director of marketing, having a separate, separate department for e-commerce data feed syndication. End of 2012, I got to $25,000 a month. I got to $25,000 a month in my own clients on the side, and I quit my job. And then from 2012 to 2017, I shifted over from having just clients to, where I was charging retainers, to doing affiliate marketing, and was able to grow my agency to doing around $2.9 million per year. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about when you're running ads and taking on those, first clients. What were, well, still, first of all, it's amazing that you were able to start off, with these big, high-paying clients right off the bat, which was,
Yeah.
one of the first milestones that a lot of agencies are looking to get to is that
Yep.
that $10,000 range mark, right? And you were able to
Oh
do
yeah.
that like basically right off the bat. How did
I
you?
had side clients for a long time paying me $250,
Right.
$500 a month. Oh, it required a complete to go from clients that want to pay $250 a month to clients that pay $10,000 a month. I mean, it just required a complete shift in everything I did,
Right.
my approach, who I was targeting, etc.
Well, actually, let's talk about that because I think that is a mental as well as kind of like tactical hurdle that a lot of people have. So, what were some of those shifts that you had to incorporate to get to that level where you could have those $10,000 a month retainers?
Sure. So at first, what I was doing to get most of my clients was I was doing two things. I was networking at local kind of like marketing events around LA, and I was also I was sending out maybe like 20 different proposals a day through Upwork
Mm-hmm.
or it was Elance at the time.
Elance, right?
Um, so to my modus operandi had been, I generally try to pitch for $1,000 a month or
Okay.
15% of ad spend, whichever is greater.
Okay.
And, you know, I would, I would kind of lead in with that. And though, I just would send out a bunch of proposals. I split tested my proposal messages. I'd customize them a little bit. And, that was just kind of like a machine. And what was cool is it did bring me consistent clients, but, again, it brought me clients between $250 to $1,000 a month, right? Because there's people in India who will do it for like $100 a month for,
Right. Yeah.
managing people's pay per click. So what I realized is that I'm just going to be in a constant churn of like these clients, and I'm never going to get to that point where I like really replace my income from my job, which was paying me $6K a month. So I said, okay, kind of early on, I said, okay, given the increased risk of running my own agency, right? Your income fluctuates more than having a fixed salary. I said, I'm going to need to get to the $10,000 a month mark. And to get to the $10,000 a month mark, it wasn't working out getting clients for an average of $500 a month, right? I'd have a dozen clients, and then, three would drop off,
Mm-hmm.
and then, I'd get, some new clients and some would drop off. They'd say, hey, you did a great job. It wasn't because I was doing anything bad. It's they say, hey, you did a great job. Now,
We're good.
you know,
Yeah, we don't
you
need
know,
anything, or we got enough
yeah,
leads now. We don't need you anymore. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like we can handle it from here. We'll just let the Google ads run because once a campaign's properly set up, you can, it doesn't take that much effort to manage it. So I said, I'm just going to get one client for $10,000 a month. But in order to I got one from Elance and I got one from in-person networking. And the way I was able to get the one from Elance or Upwork was I actually I started thinking what gives me an advantage with these people with big money. And I said, if I actually go out to their business location and meet with them in person. Okay. And I started identifying who are the big opportunities on Elance. And instead of sending them my standard proposal, I said I would send them some of that, but I'd say, hey, I'd love to meet you at the office sometime. And in this case, I was willing to fly too, flight, I figure $500, round trip flight to somewhere in the
Mm-hmm.
US is going to be worth potentially getting a big client because I'm
Yeah.
going to pitch high.
Right.
And I ended up getting one. I pitched, I think, 2 or 3 people through Elance at the 10K mark, and I got one.
Wow.
And I did an in-person meeting. It required me to drive like 4.5 hours. Um, but I got it, which was really neat. And then the second one was, again, complete shift in thinking. Instead of going to marketing events, I started looking for places where business people who could afford $10,000 a month for pay-per-click advertising would be. And it's completely different than going to the, you know, San Fernando Valley
Chamber
SEO event.
events or yeah,
Yeah,
the B&I
exactly.
groups, like you're not going to find those people with the big
You,
budgets to those
you're
events.
not going to find those people there. So I started looking at events such as charity benefit dinners,
Uh-huh.
silent auctions, galas, um, and also kind of I kept my, I kept my finger on the pulse of like big marketers and masterminds that were happening. And I found out in this particular case, I met a lot of super rich people at all of these events.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people. I'm talking about silent auctions that were free, that were held in Beverly Hills in like the Hilton Hotel. And they're free. You can go to the Hilton in Beverly Hills and be around the richest people for free. There's so many examples of stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the one I did was Neil Strauss, which is the author of this book called The Game.
Mm-hmm.
He had a
I've read it.
mastermind, and I ended up just looking on Eventbrite. I found out where it was, when it was. It was invite only, RSVP only. I ended up just sneaking in. And everybody there had paid $50,000 a year to be a part of this networking group.
Yeah.
So if, for people that have 50,000 to drop on networking, and they all flew out here, it's their like yearly meetup or something. I mean, let's just say you had some business people who had businesses that did hundreds of millions of dollars in this room. And I would just talk to people. I'd introduce myself at the bar. People would say, "What do you do?" And I'd say, "Oh, I do pay-per-click advertising." They say, "Oh, I need a PPC guy."
No way. That's amazing.
And the,
Now,
and I ended up going to this guy's house the next day. He said, "Yeah, come over to my." He had a mansion in Hollywood Hills. He had America's second top chef, whatever, some reality. He got the runner-up in some reality TV show to cook him breakfast every day. And the guy was super loaded, right?
mhm.
Aston Martins. He had all the fancy stuff. And we ended up working together. You got $10,000 a month. Again, I didn't come in low. I came in at $10,000 a month, and I would not go down. So that was and that was how it started. I got those 2 clients. I had 4,000 a month in other clients, and on top of that, my boss continued to pay my salary for 6 months because of I'd forged strong relationships. So when I quit my job, I instantly went from when I was making $30,000 a month at like 23 years old, and it
Dude,
was
that's
pretty cool.
amazing.
Yeah,
So my question, because I read the game, and for those who haven't read the game, it's about picking up chicks.
yeah.
And so when you went to that event, and there's a big, big lesson in this, but when you went to that event, was it mainly all guys for one?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's all guys.
This was at the Roosevelt Hotel. It was on
Oh
the
yeah,
second story of the Roosevelt Hotel. There's a like an wood oak lounge and a
yep,
bowling alley, and it's big
yeah.
leather couches. So it was like their pre-event mixer.
So for those that have never been to Hollywood and have never been to the Roosevelt Hotel, it's probably the iconic hotel on Hollywood. It's on Hollywood Boulevard, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
And like if you ever go to Disney's California Adventure, like they have a fake Roosevelt
Yeah,
Hotel there, lobby, and it's supposed to be
yeah.
haunted and everything like that. So what made you think though that would be the event where you could go meet some clients, because it's so far out of the realm of digital marketing that it does take, well, one, it takes courage, but two, it also takes that's massive thinking outside the box.
So when the client, as director of marketing, I was working on a number of clients, and some of the clients had consultants they worked with or other people. I made friends with everybody on these teams, and I always kept in touch with them, and I just wanted to know what they were up to, where I could add value. Again, I was never an employee that did the bare minimum to get by and so I could go home and work on my side hustle. I always did way above and beyond. And one of the consultants who worked for one of the marketing consultants that worked for one of the clients, again, we had formed a friendly relationship. He would contact me about other clients that he was working on, right? I kind of thought maybe I'd get some clients out of him, or something, like there'd be some crossover eventually. And he'd say, "Hey, John, can you whip up some extra ads for like this guy of mine?" And he knew I was just an eager beaver, so I just do stuff for him for free. You say, "Yeah, let me jump in Photoshop," and I send him five new display ads.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were talking. I was just catching up with him, and he said, "Oh, I'm actually going to be in LA." I was invited by one of my clients to or by somebody I knew or something. They aren't using their ticket for this mastermind, and I'm going. Maybe we can meet up outside of the event. He said, "You won't be able to get in, but maybe you could drop by and say hi. I'm only in LA for 24 hours type of thing." So I said, "Sure, I'll be there." And I went there, and I figured out a way to get in.
They thought you were Rob Lowe. They let you in.
Who knows? But again, showing up, I think, is half the battle. I think a lot of people don't take risks like that. I mean, I've gone to the extent that if I want to meet somebody, and let's say I'm in California, they're in Florida, or they're in New York, I don't say, "Hey man, when would be a good time to meet? I'd love to fly out there and meet you," because nobody wants somebody to fly out to meet them just to not get their business. A lot of people don't want to meet with somebody like that because it's kind of neat, it's kind of needy or whatever. Mm-hmm. Instead, I would always do stuff like, "Hey, I'm in Florida next week. What's a good time? Is there a good time we could meet for coffee or lunch or something?"
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even let them know that I was going to fly out just for the meeting. And oftentimes I'd get something like, "Oh, you know what? I should be free sometime Wednesday. Just text me. Text me when you're done with whatever you're doing." So I'd just fly out, and I'd go places, and people would say, "Oh, I can't meet today. I'm busy." So I would have done a whole trip for nothing. But because I go above and beyond I take chances.
Yeah.
To connect with business owners that are on the next level for my agency at the time, I was able to get deals that completely transformed the sorts of revenues and profits I was able to make at a fairly young age.
That's amazing, man. All right. So we've only got like 5 minutes left, but I want to give you some time to talk about the transition. So you built up the agency, and then you decide, you know what, instead of just running ads, I kind of want to go into the affiliate model. And that's when things took a whole different turn, and they blew up the agency, multi-million dollars. So talk about that kind of like transition.
Sure. So what had happened was the client I got at the Hollywood, at the Roosevelt Hotel, mm-hmm. What they did was they were going to pay me $10,000 a month for the first 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then they wanted it to be done. They said, "We'll try you out for $10,000 a month, 3 months." But they added in this weird clause, which said, "We will pay you $10,000 a month or 3% of revenue generated by the business that's referred through your marketing. I said, 3%, that's nothing.
Right.
Know,
That's better than
and
3% of profit, because that's when people really get screwed.
But I said, you know what? I'll shoot for it. I'm good at I'm good at Google Ads. That 3% ended up becoming over the span of 2 years, it ended up becoming $75,000 a month.
Wow.
So even and by the third month, because I work like crazy. You give me a target, I try to hit it.
Yeah.
And I knew the client, if I wasn't hitting that number for the client, that they'd probably drop me after 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
They just wouldn't, they wouldn't want to pay that retainer forever. So I had to beat that target, and I did. And within, 3 months into that relationship, I was taking home an additional $25,000 a month just from that deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that ended up becoming a major revenue source for me. And I realized I was doing affiliate marketing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was doing performance-based advertising. So I said, wow, I can really scale these deals. I don't think I could sign a client that would pay me $25,000 a month just for my pay-per-click work. So I said, I'm going to find more deals, where I can do it on a performance basis, because I said, I don't mind eating a little risk, right? I'm making all this money, so I can afford to put a little money down for, I could spend on my own credit cards, and that ended up becoming $2.9 million a year, over $1 million profit. And, for a 25-year-old kid, that's
some great coin, man. That's definitely some great coin.
Yeah.
So, like, how many clients did you have going on at that time? Because there's also a massive lesson here. Because, and this is myself included. Like, when I started my own agency, I was like, oh, I'm going to have 1,000 clients, and they're going to pay me, X amount a month, and I'm going to be rich. And there's a lot of challenges that go with having that many clients, and especially on the churn side. I mean, you need a whole customer experience department just to keep the clients happy, so they don't cancel. And so, like, about how many clients were you working with at the time when you got to that like $2.9 million range?
So 2.9 million was, I was working with, that was 2 to 3 affiliate networks.
That's awesome.
90% of it was one affiliate network. So, not really many clients. But when I was running my agency, I'd say we'd fluctuate between 5 to 15 clients.
Right.
Like, and the revenues would fluctuate between 25 to 50,000. The revenues. Well, if we don't count my one performance deal, I'd say most of my money was coming from my my performance deals. So I'd say we'd always fluctuate between 5 to 25 clients that I could personally handle with an assistant. And the reason that is because whenever we got to 15 clients, I'd be so bogged down in work, I couldn't do biz dev.
Yep.
And then when we had 5 clients, I had so much extra time, I could focus a lot on biz dev.
Right.
So it just, but
that's the agency cycle.
And I could also focus on keeping
going down and getting work and going down. Yeah.
Yeah. And the quality of the work was higher at 5 clients, and I had more time. And the quality of work was a bit lower, right? Because I'd have my assistant doing most of the stuff when we had 15 clients. So that was the struggle I found. And I'd never been good at management or creating management systems. So that's the reason why I don't believe I was ever able to scale my agency beyond that.
Well, the revenue target and the income target, obviously amazing. And that's a lesson for everybody listening, is that you don't always need 1 million clients. You know, you can run an amazing agency that fits your lifestyle and that's fun with just a handful of clients paying you a buttload of money.
Yeah.
And so, you know, definitely something, if you're out there and you're listening to this, you know, you might want to rethink your strategy and see if there's another way to do it. And you've got the model right here. So, John, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. What's the best way for people to reach out to get in contact with you?
My YouTube. You know, if people have personal inquiries, they can just send it to my support at johncrestani.com, and my assistant filters through that mail if it's necessary for me to respond to.
Perfect. And who would be the perfect person to reach out to you today?
The perfect person to reach out to me today. I would say if people are interested in, you know, I guess, you know, I'm open to like speaking or, you know, being interviewed about stuff. We're blowing up on TV advertisements. So I'd say those are always cool. I love doing anything press related, or I'm trying to do more of it. And also, yeah, you know, I'd say those are the main that's the main issue right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And to all of our listeners, thank you all for tuning in today. And make sure you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Thanks, guys.